Hello and welcome to UniVerse Touch, the weekly show where we redefine the narrative for the human of tomorrow. Here, you can be both spiritual and wealthy, work to create a better future, a better tomorrow, and have an extraordinary life, all of it together. Week after week, I bring to you stories, real life stories, from my own journey and from the journey of other human beings that have managed to transcend what we know as normal reality or how life is supposed to be. I have a deep belief that if more of us share these stories that we all have in our timeline, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, we will end up creating a completely different narrative for the world. And it will be a narrative where there is no limitations the way we know them today. There will be a completely different way to connect with each other, to understand life, to create and to grow. And that can change radically the history of humankind. So today we're going to go into the third episode. And the third episode is also the third stage of the spiritual awakening. The first one was the very first glimpse of the awakening. The second one was the cave time. And now we are going into the third stage, which I like to call resurfacing. If you haven't watched the previous two episodes, I strongly recommend that you do, because it is a sequence. Nevertheless, if you feel inspired to only hear this episode, please do so and dive in with me. In every episode, I bring to you a very particular example from my own life, so it's easy for you to understand and capture how it happened for me. But this is an invitation more than a sharing of a story. That you remember times in your life that something similar has happened to you, or you are able to understand patterns that can connect to people that you know, to your own life story, or to what you have heard and read in spiritual books. This is how we start creating a stronger bond in the collective intelligence. When we find the common points in our so look like very different lives. So each one of us does have a very different experience during this lifetime. And at the same time, there is archetypal journeys that the human soul is taking throughout each one of us, the expressions of it. So the more we're able to go into the archetypal, the root, the essence behind what exactly happened, the more we are able to draw the wisdom that becomes the honey, the nectar that drops into our soul. And we are able both to see our lives as an extraordinary journey, but also we can pass it on to other humans. Let me bring you back into where we stopped in the last episode. The last episode was the cave time. Cave time, if you remember, is the time when you go back into yourself, you just close yourself off from the entire world, you put down all your labels, and you start redefining who you are. Am I this? I have been this, but do I want to be that anymore? Am I that? How about this one? And that many times happens in an enclosed environment. It could be your own home or it can be another environment, but most of the times you want to retrieve from life, you need as little interaction as possible, and you just go inwards. Then comes the third stage, which is the resurfacing. And the resurfacing is a stage that is very important to observe because the very first time that you start experiencing the magic of the universe without your own personal effort. And that's profound because most of the times we have learned that in order for something to happen, we have to make it happen. And it's not exactly like that. We do have to work on things, we do have to strive for excellence, but it's not correct, it's not accurate that we alone are making it happen. It is actually our ego that's informing us that that's how it is, and that's why we really like it. And yet, if you ever want to test what I'm telling you now, you can set an intention or know a direction that you want to take and retrieve from taking action for some time. You will see that it will happen exactly the same as if you have taken action. It will happen a bit less fast, but it will also happen with less effort. So it's a very different way. You can do it faster and you can do it with your own energy and effort. But are you really doing it? That's a huge question. So, the resurfacing is the stage where we start tapping into that. And I'll go into my own story, how it happened to me, and then we're going to come back in some extremely interesting, profound insights that came out of this story. So I am in Switzerland. I am doing this personal journey of mine. I have put down all of my labels. I have gone into my cave. And I slowly feel that I'm coming back, right? I start feeling more social. I start having more energy. I start opening again. I start literally resurfacing, coming back into the surface. And as I'm coming back into the surface, I still don't have clarity of what is the new me and what the hell happened, right? I just feel that there's something shifting and I'm not hiding anymore inside my cave. And then there was a group that I have got in contact from somewhere, I don't even remember, a group from Brazil actually, that were coming to Switzerland to create a spiritual gathering, a spiritual meeting. And for some reason, they called me to organize it. I know that this now looks straightforward with the persona that you know me, but back then I had nothing to do with all of that. Remember that it was a completely different identity. I was an architect working in construction. I didn't even think that I was actually particularly spiritual yet. I just have undergone a very deep journey and I was coming out of it. No context whatsoever. And I'm being called out of the blue to organize a meditation gathering. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, why me? I'm not even such a good meditator. Okay, sure, I have been meditating the last year and a half, but I don't know how to guide. I don't know how to organize. I'm not an event organizer. Why? What? No context, right? But this is the interesting part of this phase. You start receiving invitations that you yourself cannot see yourself as this person, but somebody can see it in you. So, in this stage, it's wonderful to allow yourself to receive these invitations and pick them up. So I was like, okay, sure. I mean, they know what they're doing and they're calling me to do that. I'm pretty sure I can do that. I've done so many things in my past anyway. So we organized the gathering and it was really beautiful. The most important part of that was that I realized that this is something I can do. And not only I can do, other people can see it in me, and it also feels aligned to do. The first glimpse of the new persona. Then an inspiration came. It's like, oh, maybe what I learned is something can be shared, something that can support other people. And all of a sudden, people start asking me to teach them meditation. I have no context. I don't know how to do that, what to charge, how to guide them. But I'm like, okay, that's another one of these invitations that I'm not doing it, it's happening. So something is calling me. They're seeing something in me that I cannot see. So let me just pick it up and do it in the best way that I can. So I start doing the gatherings. I start teaching meditation on one. I start finding spaces in Zurich that felt aligned to create meditation circles. So I start creating meditation circles. And slowly, this new identity of maybe I can create events, maybe I can guide other people to their own spiritual path, maybe I can just show them what I have learned, start becoming more obvious to me. One of the biggest revelations that happened was a little bit later down the line. So I continue, I do the gatherings, I do the meditations, I keep my normal job, and I'm one person on one hand and I'm another person on the other hand, and I have to balance the two of them. So there's not like a complete flip all of a sudden. There's just like there's a new persona that's coming up, but there's still the old one, right? And at some point, I don't know if you remember what I shared with you in the first episode. The first initial spark for me to go into this whole journey was the realization that the dream that I have been sold doesn't feel like a dream. So there should be something else out there, and I'm out to find it. So the phrase that was literally I could hear in my brain was, I don't know how, but I will make myself happy. And I start the quest. And we're coming back now 3 years, almost like 3 years later from that initial moment, with all of these practices, all of the journey that I told you, all of the release, all of the cave time, the inner exploring, the picking up all the new identities that are coming up, organizing the events, guiding others. And I have this moment. That was one of the most profound moments. I am on the mountain in Austria. It is the last day of the season, of the ski season, which usually for me it's a very sad day because I really love being on the mountain and I really love skiing. So the last day is usually like, oh, I could have so much more. Why is it finishing? Will have to wait until next year. I literally feel like a small child in these moments. And it is the last day of the season. I have hurt my legs, so I cannot exactly ski. So I'm just sitting in the cafe actually, in the ski resort. It is very foggy, so I cannot anyway go out and ski. And I'm just having a hot chocolate waiting for the time to pass, and it's the last day, and I'm not gonna ski anymore this year. And yet, inside of me, there is such a profound state of happiness that I was like, wait a second. I've told that I don't know how, but I will make myself happy. And here we are, 3 years later, having almost forgotten about this quest, in a situation that will normally make me, to say the least, uncomfortable or a little bit sad or annoyed. And I am deeply happy and deeply in peace. And I could feel it. My whole body was in a different state. I have never had this state before. I didn't know what happiness truly feels like. And this is wild because our souls set us on journeys we don't yet know what they are, but they still know and they still make us start these incredible journeys. So my soul set me on the first journey that was happiness. And then I had this moment that I reached it. And then I realized that every time you start on a journey, you are creating a different plateau. So you're starting from a lower vibrational plateau, if you want to call it like that. And then you undergo all of these challenges and you change and you try and you do, and life shapes you. And then you come to another plateau and a whole different set of vibrations is set here. And you never actually really drop in the first one. You can have oscillations, but it will be in a different plateau. And then another quest starts. And you go and you try and you do and you learn and you get to another plateau. And slowly you start shifting your bottom line. So I like to call that the spiritual bottom line. If you are in business, you know that bottom line is the absolute minimum. It is the lowest you can get. Start being higher. You still do that, but it's different to do it down here. It feels different to do it down here, and it feels different to do it down here, and it feels different doing down here, and it feels different to do it up there. Because even your lowest here, it's so much better than your highest there. It's a whole different experience. So I have this moment. Oh my God, I brought myself here. And then my engineer mind went into, whoa, how did we do that? And if we did that, can we do it for other people? And I was like, for sure we can. But I actually have no idea what exactly brought me here. I have done so many lessons. I have learned so many techniques. I have done so many energy work, so much energy work. I have done so many hours of meditation. I have no idea what truly brought me here. And maybe it's even a combination of them. So how do I even figure out how to bring other people here? That moment and that thought was the beginning of a whole new journey of expansion for me. So I said, okay, let's reverse engineer. I'll go back and check everything I have done, and I will measure the effect of everything I have done in my physiology, because I feel that something profound has changed in the cellular level. It's not just a thought pattern now, like I can feel it. It's a new me that is here. So I will go and measure what has happened and see what truly actually works. And then I will share it with other people. Sounds amazing, right? So I started using wearable devices. Back then, it was the actual beginning of the wearables. They were incredible as an idea. The data was still there in the beginning, but it was different. It was definitely a completely new way of seeing what we can do with the human body, because you could measure how you sleep. You could measure how your heart works. You could measure the vibration of your skin. So you could measure your brain waves. You could measure and see on a graph what's happening in you in real time from your home. This has never happened before. Usually you had to go either to a medical lab or to be part of a scientific research to be able to understand all of these parameters for yourself. And back then, for the first time, we start creating devices and ways to create this awareness about who we are in a physical level this time. So I start exploring all of these wearables, brainwaves wearables, EEG as they called, skin temperature, sleep wearables, heart rate variability wearables, all of them. And I was doing all the practices I have done throughout the years. So meditating, Reiki, being in nature, doing energy work, doing NLP, doing shamanism, ceremonies, you name it. There was a lot of things I was doing back then. And I was taking each one of them and I was doing them again and I was measuring what happens in my brain. I started from the brain. It is the one that was the most known back then to be able to measure what happens in you. And it started from the beautiful work of many scientists that are changing the way we see well-being and understand the human body and mind and how the two relate. So I started using wearables and I was measuring all of these practices and these techniques with EEG, brain waves. And then I was looking at the data and I was remembering my own experience. And I realized that there was an incoherence here. What I was saying is in the data was not reflecting how much of a healing I was feeling I was receiving or how much of a transformation I was receiving from this particular technique. So it was kind of curious. I'm like, all of these great scientists are praying behind EEG, and I do that for myself and I don't see it. Like what I see there has very little to do with what I'm feeling in the practice. And then I realized that maybe the brain is a great measure if we want to go into focus, for example, but it's not a very great measure if we want to go into spirituality and cellular transformation, because it happens in a subconscious level. We're not changing the focus of the mind. We are literally changing the energy of the whole organism by allowing the mind to relax. So, measuring the mind is not necessarily the best way to do it. And right there came one of the biggest breakthroughs that continues for following my path. And I think it's a breakthrough that applies to pretty much everything. I realized that, as we usually do in the Western society, I was counting on the mind to show me something profound. And this is not the correct organ. So I decided to change from the mind to the heart. Quite literally, in my case, I changed from EEG to heart rate variability. Heart rate variability, for the ones who might not know, it is the tiny little fluctuations between our heartbeats that scientists have found that is the most accurate way of predicting if we are actually in good shape. Because we used to believe that the heart is beating very precisely, and this is not true. The more tiny fluctuations there are, the more it means that our heart is flexible and can adapt to our environment. So it is more resilient, so we are healthier. So this is what we call heart rate variability. So I start moving from the head because I couldn't see the graphs. The graphs were not representing my experience during the transformations, and some of the journeys were very deep and profound into heart rate variability. And then it just clicked. And it didn't just click on the graphs. reality just clicked. From the moment I did this shift from the mind to the heart, in less than a month, I was in international conferences in San Francisco, in Switzerland, and in TEDx, changing the whole scenery of the stage through my practices in transformative tech, creating the whole meditation room and being the only room of such a kind back in the days. All of a sudden, I was out there. We created the whole app. We were doing demonstrations. And then I realized that this is one of the most archetypal journeys that the mystics have talked for eons. And it is the journey from the mind to the heart. I had to do it quite literally to understand it, to change from EEG to heart rate variability. But what I realized is that it is the same journey that we are all called to do in order to open ourselves into a different layer of reality. Because the brain is incredible, but it goes until so far. And to go further, you have to start opening other parts of you. And the heart is one of the most powerful parts you can ever open. And that's why it's also one of the scariest parts to ever open. And that's the reason why many of us just stay here. It feels safer. And it is safer because this is more limited. And the less power we use, the less of our power we use and we share with the world, the safest we are. But also, the smaller we are, the less impact we have, the less confident we are, and the less we are able to explore life and fully live it, which I believe is the reason we are here. So it is safer to stay up here, but it doesn't get you very far. You do believe that you're doing a lot, though, because the brain has this quality of always feeling busy and always feeling that it's solving something. But how many times have you ever wondered how many times the problem you're solving, it is actually your mind that has created in order to solve it? Think about that. How many times this problem will even exist if it was a different person or a different mind? Because what the brain does many times to keep us safe, because that's the main role of the brain, it creates all of these problems. So we can go and solve them with the brain again. So it feels busy and it feels that he's doing something. And it raises our confidence, or our ego, I would say, better. But in the end, we are just going into loops, creating problem, solving problem, creating problem, solving problem. And all of that we just do because we're afraid to drop deeper. Because it is scary to show your heart. It is scary to be who you are in this lifetime. And this is exactly the mission that we're all given to do. And it's not the same thing that we're all supposed to do, but we're all given one and only mission: to be who we are. Some of us are supposed to create families. Some of us are supposed to create businesses. Some of us are supposed to behave, be, and look like women. Some of us are supposed to behave, be, and look like men. Some of us are supposed to be artists. Some of us are supposed to be businessmen. Some of us are supposed to be teachers, and the list goes on. The one and only common point in all of that we are all supposed to be who we came here to be. And I cannot keep repeating that enough, because I truly, truly, truly believe that this is the core of humanity start going exponential in the next years. If each one of us take our position to who we're supposed to be, and layer after layer, we allow everything that is not us to drop out, and we become the most crystalline version of this human being that is here, that human being that is there, that you are. This is the key to a purposeful life, to an impactful life, to a collective of humanity that is finally transcending all the problems we have created with the mind in order to be able to solve them, in order to be able to feel good about solving them. And we actually go further. And I do believe that it's about time. Like, we are a young species, and at the same time, it's time to mature. It's not okay anymore to keep just doing scrappy stuff because it feels nice and playful, and our egos just grow and whatever, without realizing the effect we have in all the dynamics and the circumstances. This is a childlike behavior. We need to understand that. And we need to start involving the entirety of the situation in our actions and other people and all the dynamics, and to actually be responsible for the actions in their full spectrum. Not just let me do, and then whatever happens after, well, I don't care. You do. It's part of your responsibility. And only then it becomes an incredible service to the world. Otherwise, it's just you playing you, or playing like a little child and not caring about anybody else. And that's not the point. The point is, we can be as much as we are fully, and let the others be who they are. And when that happens, because I have tried that time and again in our experiences in the UniVerse of Aelia Kos, in our private club, every time you allow human beings to fully be who they are, magic happens. And I mean real life magic. I don't mean you feel good. I mean shifting timelines. I mean people getting pregnant. I mean people falling in love and moving countries. I mean people starting companies. I mean real life magic drops when we are around each other, being fully ourselves, and allow the others to be fully themselves. This is the magic of humanity. This is what we are supposed to do here. The rest is just a cheap version of human. And we don't need more cheap versions of humans. Thank you. We need full on body, mind, soul, gut, feelings, body, spirit, full on humans. And these conversations here, the ones we do here live, the ones we do inside our club, the ones I do with my clients, the ones you can do with your husband, your wife, your kids, getting out of this call will bring us there. Pretending that everything is all right and that's the best we can do when we know it's not, will not bring us there. Trust me. But we can. And I have seen it. And it is magical. And I invite you to be around these circles. May that be joining our club. May that be joining one of our experiences. May that be creating your own circle. May that be saying yes into a particular environment that you know will uplift, that you know that human beings there understand reality differently. Take the step to be in these environments that allow you to transcend your limitations. Because the more of us are able to do that, the more that becomes the norm. And this new norm that accepts that life is not linear, that accepts that together we can transcend our problems, that accepts that we can dissolve all type of friction. Can you imagine the world with this new narrative? Can you imagine, instead of competition, having true collaboration as the narrative and that being the norm? And competition just happens once in a while. Now we have the opposite, right? Like we have mainly competition, and then collaboration sometimes happens out of the blue by coincidence once in a while. Can you imagine? You know we're here, you know how it is now. Can you allow yourself to touch the opposite? Because by definition, if we are here, we could also be there. We can. And it is the narratives that bring us from one to another. It becomes normal. It becomes the new norm, the new normal. The more of us believe it, the more of us remember that we have experienced it. So, and we have done it once, we can do it again and again and again and again. And that can become the new norm. That's how the future changes. It doesn't just magically goes like poof, and now it's all solved. We have no problem in the world. Everything is all right. And ta ta ta, heaven and earth. It doesn't go like that. I know there's a lot of theories, and we would love to believe that it goes like that. We would love a clean slate, because deep down we feel actually bad for the way we have treated the world, because we do have awareness that that's not our best. But it doesn't go like that. It goes slowly. From the one side, we start saying, okay, that's somehow different, that's better. I decide to continue growing that. I decide to be more around people who make me feel like that. I decide to be in spaces that have this as the principle. And then our reality shifts a bit. And then opens up the next level. And you're like, oh, that's another space. People are even more collaborative in this particular example, or more open, or more spiritual, or more wealthy, or they are just more present, or they know more about life, or they are more connecting. Okay, let me shift my whole narrative and go there. And slowly we do that. And then all of a sudden, we are in a different reality for ourselves. Well, that's how it looks. But many other humans, without knowing, they're doing the same. And actually, the more humans are doing this path, the faster others are also able to do it. Because oftentimes we don't realize how much influence our actions have to the whole. It kind of feels grand. How can it be that if I meditate an hour in my house, changes the world? It does. It's not the only thing, and it's not the only thing that you're supposed to do, but it does. Because you're shifting the narrative for yourself. And without realizing it, you are affecting everybody around you, but also you are affecting the collective field. And this is something we don't talk a lot about. And I love exploring this field since very young. It feels that there is an overarching pool of information that includes everything. And that means that includes also all possible futures. So anything could happen in the future from all the possibilities in the world, practically. Like everything anybody has ever thought, felt, wanted, desired is a possible future. But the future that truly happens actually depends on how everybody's acting on the current moment. Because the more we create a particular narrative, this narrative starts attracting or enhancing one of the possibilities for the future. That means if we all believe that, let me see what example to bring here because I'm not sure what I want to bring. Because I know that words can be powerful, and I know that what we think here in this space can actually create the future. That's what we're doing here. Let's take the example I was taking before. If we start believing that collaboration can be the norm in X amount of years, and that will be our reality, we start enhancing the possibility of that becoming a reality. If we put on top of it some experiences or some images or some sounds that sound like collaboration, that look like collaboration, that feel like collaboration, we start creating a positive in that direction, energetic knot, an energetic bubble around this potentiality for the future. The more people are doing that, the more it is almost sure that I will be the future. Not because it was the only future, but because we put all of this attention, which is both mind and heart energy, put into, oh, this could be the future, or actually I believe that this can be the future, or like, of course it's going to be the future because I have seen it, that actually becomes the future. The scariest part is that we do exactly the same for negative narratives, and they become equally potent to be our future. So I beg you, next time you're watching a movie, you're hearing a speech, you're reading a book that is actually painting a narrative of the future, be extra observant of what image it's painting inside your brain, because that becomes a possibility. And I know that it sounds exaggerated, but it's not. If we are seeing parts of the Matrix, the movie The Matrix, being our reality right now, it is partially because this movie was made. It is not that they were exactly predicting the future. They were actually shaping the future. They were enhancing the potentiality that this is the future. And many of us believed it because we saw it and it was very obvious and clear and well described. So that became the future. So please, please, please be extra careful with what is being painted inside your brain and your heart. Because we do have the chance to create a positive future, but we have to believe it more than a negative future. And our world is bombarded with examples and narratives of a negative future. Don't let them grow inside of you. Don't water the seeds. Water the seeds of a more beautiful future, of a more collaborative future, or of a more expansive future, or a more effective future, or a more wealthy future, on a more abundant future, on a greener future, on a future we are all together. These are equally possible. In the field of potentiality, everything is an option. Let's go into this future. So this series is literally created for what I have just described right now. We are shaping the narrative through words. And hopefully soon enough, we're going to be able to shape the narrative with even more immersive ways. So videos, there is an idea of a film coming up. We are having our experiences every quarter in different places in the world that are actually some of the most incredible spaces that are creating the future. If you want to be part of that, please let me know. And we are shaping a whole new space that is called the UniVerse of Aelia Kos, which is our private club, that it has as the main core to establish these new narratives of being able to be both spiritual and wealthy, care for the world, and have an extraordinary life all at the same time. And that this is possible reality. So the private club, it is created to establish that in our reality through experiences, in-person experiences, through meeting other people who are doing it, who are discussing what it takes to get there, through sharing all of the archetypal stories of how each one of us uncovered and unlocked parts of his reality, of her reality, to be who they are now. And all of this together creates this new world, literally. So if you want to be part of that, let me know. We will be announcing our next experience in Greece towards either the end of March or the beginning of April, uh, possibly next week. It is by application, it is very selected. It's only 12 to 20 people every time. And it does create all of this magic I was telling you before. I was actually very happy to find out that from our previous one of the couples that was part of the experience and they really wanted to have a baby, they actually ended up having a baby, being supported from this energy. And this is just an example. We have had businesses starting after that. We have had investments happening after that. We have had people falling in love after experiences. It is magical what can happen. And usually it happens what your soul desires the most. So it doesn't happen what your mind thinks you're supposed to do, but what you actually really, 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 really want to happen in your life. That's what happens when we drop into spaces that foster these narratives of pure divine creation. So if you want to be part of that, let me know. I will send you details. I will send you the application form, and then we will take it from there together. If you're going to go forward and be a full-on member for our club, you still need to come through one of the experiences, because there is where we establish the actual link. But then we can also go take you forward to support you in a full-on year as a member in all aspects of your life and business. It can be through personal introductions, it can be with one-on-one coaching, it will be with the experiences, it will be with more particular mentorship, it will be with investments. The club truly covers and supports you in a way that you are everything of our narrative all at the same time and is fully and equally supported. So we have shaped it literally as a universe. And that's why the name is like that. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Further than that, we are going towards the closing of today's episode. It was a pleasure and honor to be with you. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you allowed yourself to really allow the universe to touch you. And that's the magic of human experience. And that's the potentiality of what we can do. And this is the connection with the human spirit, all of them all at once. Allow them to come inside of you. See what they spark in your life. Let me know. Let me know in the comments. Email me, message me. You can find me on social media as Aelia Kos, AELIAKOS. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, and my email is the same, Aelia at aeliakosaltogether.com. So whatever you need to move forward, to work with me, to connect with other people who are in the same wavelength, let me know. I'm here to help. I truly believe that we have an amazing chance to make this happen, and the time is now. So, for the next episode, it will be next Thursday at the same time, 7 p.m. Central European Time. check your calendar or your time zone. If you're in a different time zone, it will be announced on YouTube. So if you want to remain aware, the best way is actually to subscribe to our channel and then press the notify button, because that will tell you we are going live. So in case you're in a different time zone, you have forgotten it's Thursday, to me it happens all the time, or for any other reason you haven't seen either our newsletter or our notifications or our posts on social media, YouTube itself will notify you if you have clicked the subscribe and the notify button. So please do that. And I'm waiting to see you next week. Next week would be the completion of the first month. It will be the fourth episode. It will be the completion of the first month of the UniVerse Touch. And that will be a full circle of the very first stage of the awakening. So the 4 episodes will create a small cycle inside the bigger cycle of the show, and then we will move into a different theme for month number 2. That will not let you know now, I'll let you know in the next episode. So watch out for the next one. Come live. If you're not able to come live, push the notify button, get your notifications, and allow yourself, through my words, to truly believe that there is a new narrative and it's happening right here, right now. I'm Aelia Kos, joining you from UniVerse Touch. It has been a pleasure and an honor. May see you next Thursday.